Hey, how are you? Are you ready for a long speech about 2 hours? No, it would be very short because when you speak about what you believe deeply, with passion and conviction, you can express your point of view in a short 2 or 3 sentences, but I won't speak like Pierre Poilievre by slogan. You know, empty slogan, it is not my style. So let's discuss about, actually today it's a special day for me, for you, and for the PPC family. Why? Because 6 years ago, we decided to create the People's Party of Canada. It's our anniversary today. And when we started the party, September 14, 2018, we said we must do something different because people are fed up with traditional establishment politicians. We must tell them the truth based on facts. We must do politics by conviction and principles. So that's what we did. We said, okay, if there's a new political party in Canada, that party must be based on principles. And as you know, our 4 founding principles are individual freedom and personal responsibility. Why? Because when you are free, you must be responsible of your actions, good ones and bad ones. Fairness and respect. Because we are a diverse country, yes, but we must respect each other, and we must have policies that are fair for everybody. So we don't play the game of pandering to special interest groups or, you know, identity politics. When we created the party in 2018, and just a couple of months before September 14, 2018, I did do a tweet, and I said, no more political correctness. And that's what we are doing. We are doing that with our candidates, our associations all across the country. And we are building that new political party. I'm traveling across the country, meeting our organization, funding candidates, and we have about today 160 candidates selected and approved for the next election. We are not alone. There's a lot of people who share our values, but they don't know that we exist. So because the mainstream media is canceling us, they deeply know that if they give us more visibility, we'll grow faster. They don't want that. So that's why I need you, and I believe Canadians need us. We have 840,000 Canadians who did vote for us at the last election. If each one of these voters find 10 new supporters, we'll be at 8 million votes. So, and actually, you still have maybe a year to find 10 more supporters. And when you're speaking with them, speak about ideas, solutions, policy. Like, you know, deep down people understand that the DEI, it's destroying our civilization. You know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to fight that. It's a virus in the minds of people. We must tell them why it is not working. You know, always more diversity. We know that this country is a diverse country, but always more and more diversity. It is not working. We know what is happening right now with mass immigration. Yes, we are a diverse country, but we must promote unity. And you can unite people who share the same views, who have the same values. Our Western civilization values, believing in people and not in a big fat government that will try to give you everything that you want, but by, spending money that we don't have, creating inflation. No, we believe in individual Canadians, in hard-working Canadians. So we must promote unity. We must promote equality of rights instead of equality. Equality of rights. Every Canadian must have the same rights. And that's not the case anymore. I said a long time ago that there's no, how do you call that, global or racism in Canada. No, but these leftist ideologues, these leftist people are doing that. They are dividing us by race, by gender, by our sexual orientations. We don't play that game. Everybody is equal. We must stop that diversity and promoting, how many genders? I don't know, there are 49 or something like that. But that does not exist. There's only two sexes, male and female. We are equal under the law. That's written in our Constitution. When you read the Canadian Constitution, the preamble, it's written, this country has been built under the rule of law and the supremacy of God. That's our country. The rule of law means everybody must be equal. It's not that case. When actually, if you're black or, the government will create programs to help you and to discriminate. For example, if you're a black entrepreneur, you'll be able to have subsidies from the federal government, but if you're a white entrepreneur, you won't be able to have that. If the government wants to create programs to promote entrepreneurship, that must be for everyone, black, white, or yellow. So that's the equality of rights. And the other thing is inclusion. Inclusion. What we must promote is a meritocracy society. If you're good, if you're competent, you must be able to work and to find a job in your specialties. Right now, it's not the case in the private sector and also in government. They will promote you because they want a diverse society. They want to have people with diverse culture. So it's not about competence anymore. When you are doing that, you are destroying Western societies. That's a Marxist ideology. If you're good in what you do, in what you're doing, you must be able to have a promotion. But we are seeing the opposite in the private sector and in the public sector. So our goal as a political party is, yes, to go back to the real common sense and to tell people that the government won't save you. We have too much government in our pockets. We have a big fat government in Ottawa that is trying to tell you what to do or what you can do or cannot do. Remember COVID-19. We were right at that time. We were a minority, but we were right. So it's the same thing with immigration. We need to be able to speak about that. When I said that we want fewer immigrants in 2019, that was a taboo subject. But when we created the People's Party, I said no more taboo subject for us. We will tell the truth to Canadians. We have a strong vision for this country. We won't, just be quiet and try to please to everybody. If you like what I'm saying, if you like what our candidates are saying, I hope you'll support them. If you don't, you have the choice of all these establishment political parties. And we are different because of that. We are doing politics for the long term, and what we are doing, it's a peaceful revolution. And you cannot do that in one election. From 1.6% in 2019, we almost triple our score in 2021 with 5%. And maybe the next one will double our score from 5 to 10. But we know that we are on the right side of the history. We know that when we speak about what we believe, and we are out there speaking with Canadians, we will grow, and the party is growing right now. So that's why I'm very proud to celebrate our 6th anniversary today. And I can tell you that is only the beginning. So the next election will be maybe in a week or maybe in a year. I don't believe that it will be next week because, Jack Mead said, I'm not friend anymore with Justin Trudeau. And he did that because he knows that Trudeau is not popular, and being on his side for too long, it is very bad for him and his party. So he said, I don't like Trudeau anymore. But when a journalist asking him a question about, are you ready to vote against the government? He didn't answer. Why? Because he wants his pension, and the government must be in government until October 2025. And I can tell you, the probability to have an election before that are very low. If Jack Mead is not supporting Trudeau, that will be the Bloc Québécois. But that being said, we as a party will be ready, and we understand that it may be in October 2025. And at that time, people will tell you, in a year, people will be fed up with Trudeau more than they are today. Because the economy is not doing well, inflation is at the roof. They try to tell us that we have 2% inflation, but do you know that the real inflation rate is about 6 to 8%, not 2%. Our purchasing power is going down. We are poorer every year. So in a year, people will be fed up also with Trudeau. And so the argument that our opponents are telling us, Maxime, I like your candidates, I like your ideas, but you know what? I want to get rid of Trudeau. And so I will support another party. We must have a discussion with them. Former Liberals, NDP or Conservatives. We must have a discussion on idea and telling them, are you for mass immigration? And I can tell you that they will be on our side. Are you fed up with that DEI ideology? That they will be on our side. Do you think that there's a climate emergency and we must tax you and regulate businesses to fight climate change? We know that the climate is always changing and will always, but there's no climate emergency. So I believe that they will be on our side. But after that, they're going to say, yeah, I agree. I like that. I agree with you. You're right. But I want to get rid of Trudeau. So the answer of that must be simple. Look at the polls. Bernier is about 20 points in advance. The Conservative today will win the election. And, you know, it's not Pierre who will win, it's Trudeau who won't be able to win. People are voting against Trudeau. They are not voting for the Conservatives. They are voting against Trudeau. And the impact of that is Poilievre will be able to win. So if you're speaking with somebody that is fed up with Trudeau, just tell him, you know, look at the polls today. Poilievre is winning, so now you can vote in line with your ideas. You're going to get rid of Trudeau, and it's a win-win because Trudeau will be out, and you can push your ideas, and we, the People's Party, will keep Poilievre honest. We will push him in the right direction. We are your insurance policy that Poilievre will act like a conservative. If we're not there, Poilievre will continue to do pandering and, you know, he will manage a big fat government. I was with Harper. I was a minister under the Harper government. We didn't have a majority in 2006. I was elected for the first time in 2006. We didn't have a majority in 2008. In 2011, we had that national conservative majority. I was so happy and so proud. I said, okay, we will act like a conservative government. We will have a smaller government, we will lower taxes, we will manage a deficit. No! What Harper did, at that time, he did the biggest deficit in the history of our country. That was a conservative government. Why? Because Harper was looking at the polls and he wanted to be re-elected with a majority. That did not happen. So Poilievre may have a majority, but he will do like Harper. No bold reforms. He doesn't have the courage to do that because for him it's important to pander to all these ethnic communities across the country and to give them what they want. So you need us to be out there and to bring our ideas in the national debates. And speaking about the national debates, as you may know, for the next election, I will be able to be on the stage and to debate against Trudeau and Poilievre. And I can tell you, that will be fun. I will answer the questions for sure, but I will ask also some questions to Pierre and Trudeau. Like, Pierre, you know, you're speaking about freedom and freedom and freedom, and you want the leadership of your party speaking about freedom, a little bit like me, but where were you during the COVID hysteria? We needed you at that time to speak for us as the leader of the opposition. Yeah! You were not there. We cannot trust you on that. Same thing about immigration. You said, you know, immigration, it's a question of supply and demand. You have more people coming to Canada, and we are not building enough houses to be sure for everybody to have a roof. So Pierre is saying his solution is to build more houses. But you know, last year we built about 250,000 houses across this country. Statistics Canada said that we need to build 700,000 houses every year only to meet the demand. So Poilievre won't be able to do that. He doesn't want, the solution is simple. Just have a moratorium on immigration. That's our position. Moratorium on immigration right now. That will solve a lot of problems because immigration is not about only the economy. That's having a big impact on the economy. Or spending power is going down, standard of living is going down. So what we must do, it's fewer immigrants, moratorium, because yes, when we have more people, the economy is growing, but if you have more people that are coming to our country, then the growth of the economy, you know, you have a bigger cake, but our piece of the cake is smaller, and that's what is happening. We are poorer every year. We have more people that are coming here, more than the growth of the economy, and our our part of the cake is smaller. Our standard of living is going down. The GDP per capita is going down. So that's why we are poor. Mass migration has a huge economic impact. But not only that, and Polyev won't speak about that, also a social impact. You know, when you have people coming from the third world that don't share our culture, your country is becoming a third world country. Every culture are not equal. Every culture are not equal, and being a Canadian must be a privilege, and that's not the case now. So you can count on us to fight for you, with you, and that's why we decided 6 years ago to call that party the People's Party of Canada. For the people, for Canadians. So my main message today, if you want to know more about the party, don't hesitate. Go on our website and please take 5 minutes to read, one policy in our platform. Everything is there, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. And you'll have all the information. We are the only national political party that is having a comprehensive platform, and it's the same at every election. So if you want to help us, first, be informed about our platform. Second, you can becoming a member. Third, you can donate to the party. Fourth, you can be active on social media, promoting our ideas. You can be active also in the real life. We need you. We are building that revolution together. And you can be part of the change. You can be the change. You are there with us, making a big difference and writing history, because in 10 years, they're going to look at what we did. You're going to say, I was part of that movement. I helped that movement to be in power. I helped that movement to change this country for the better. That's what I want you to do with us. So thank you for taking the time, being here this nice afternoon. I really appreciate that. It's always a privilege when you can speak to people like you and express your point of view and what you believe in. I want to thank you very much. I want to thank our organization here, the Riding Association, our candidates, our volunteers, and I'm encouraging you to go on the website, to read our policies, to share that with your people that you know. We will always fight for the same thing. We don't change. We don't look at survey or polling. We are speaking about what we believe right for this country, like we did during COVID-19. It was not popular to speak about freedom of choice, but we did it because that was the right thing to do. So our policies are always the same. What I'm saying today, when I said 6 years ago, it will be the same thing at the next election and the other one. So if you're giving time to the People's Party of Canada, if you are a volunteer for us, you are not wasting your time. Because if you believe in our ideas, if you believe in our values, we won't change. But if you're giving time to the Liberals or the Conservative, depending on the polls or the focus group, they will have a new platform at every election. And maybe what the party told you a year ago, it will be different next year. For us, it's the same values, the same principles, believing in people and not in a government. So if you want to help us, you're welcome. And I want to thank you for being here this afternoon, and stay strong and free. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I am absolutely, and I know our PPC supporters are very intelligent people. because they have submitted some very good questions to ask Max. And first I want to start out with two that were emailed to me, and these people could not attend. So there was a question that I had to just compact. And basically, Max, what would you say to the many Ukrainians displaced from the war living here in Canada? How would Ukrainian Canadians face under a People's Party government in Canada?
First, I want them to be able to stay in their country and live peacefully over there. That's why we are against the war in Ukraine. That is a proxy war against the US and Russia. So we are promoting peace and prosperity, and that must end. I don't know how many Ukrainians died because of that war. We don't need that. And if you look at the history, I understand that Ukraine is an independent country, but up to now, all that must end. So, and we have Ukrainian community here, and I'm telling them, you are welcome, you were welcome, you are welcome, but we want to help your country. That's why our position is very clear. No more war. We are there for peace and prosperity, and that's our Canadian values. And you know, contrary to Poilievre and Trudeau, we don't want Canada and Canadians to be engaged in that war, and we are with our taxpayers' money. They give more than $10 billion to Ukraine. We need that money here. Like Poilievre said, bring it home. Yeah, we need our money back in our pockets. So that's our position on Ukraine.
Oh, I like that one. Keep the money home, bring it home. So the next emailed question was, where does the PPC stand on adoption of Canadians' right to self-defense, otherwise known as the Castle Law? With the rise of home invasions and criminals seeming to have more rights than normal citizens, it's time for a change. What does the PPC say?
We agree on that. Self-defense is important in a democratic country. So go on our platform, People's Party of Canada.ca, read our policy. We have a policy on self-defense. And yes, we must change the legislation to allow Canadians to be able to defend themselves and their property. Yes.
Okay, this is a question that impacts us down here in Niagara region. What are your views on illegal immigrants being housed in luxury hotels in and around Niagara Falls? At least, if not more than 1/3 of our rooms have been taken up. It has had horrible effects on our tourism industry. Thank you.
Yes, it's not only happening here. It's happening downtown Montreal. It's happening downtown Toronto. Now the government is spending billions of dollars every year, our money, because of that policy of open borders. Sorry, but if you want to come to this country, there's only one way to be a Canadian. Apply to be a citizen, to be a permanent resident. So they're coming here and they're saying that they're refugees. These fake refugees must go back to their country of origin, and we are the only party that's in our platform that is saying for all these illegals, if they don't want to leave, we must deport them. We agree with the deportation.
Yeah!
Now what is happening, you know, I'm going to give the example of the international students. They are coming here under a permit to study here. And after your study, when you have your diploma, you go back to your country of origin. That was always the case. But now they said, okay, I have my diploma, I want to stay here, I don't want to live. They're becoming illegals, and yes, they must be deported, because if you want to be Canadians, apply to be a permanent resident in your country of origin. Don't try to find a loophole. But what is happening right now, Poilievre and Trudeau are telling these fake students, you can stay and we will give you a permanent residency. So what we are telling them, oh, don't respect our legislation, you can cheat, and we'll give you a nice gift, we'll give you the permanent residency. That's horrible. We have legislations, they must follow our legislations, and if they don't want to, too bad, we must act and deport them. That's the solution.
Woo! Now, I know that there are veterans in the House, and the next question is for them. And it might be something you'll elaborate after when you speak to the veterans. How will the PPC deal with Canada's neglected armed forces?
Yeah, actually, all the money that we are spending on actually these illegals and all these refugees in brackets that are coming here, they have hotels and food and all that. We must help our veterans. And our policies, if the first is the veterans, and after that it's our Canadian forces. The Canadian forces right now, it's a joke. It's a woke organization. So we need to end that. We need to have a real Canadian forces. We need to reinvest in our Canadian forces for sure, but at one condition. That must be a real army. No more wokeism in the Canadian forces. So to do that, we'll lay off a lot of generals and put the right person in place. Like I said in the beginning, meritocracy. If you're a good general, if you're a good soldiers, you'll be able to have a promotion. Now it's not the case in our Canadian forces, and I must add in our RCMP at the same time also. So that's what we believe, changing in this organization and giving them the money that they need to be an efficient organization. Thank you.
And I like the fact that I managed to get us back on schedule. The next question is, actually it's part 1A, part 1B, but it is what can be done about the Senate, and can the Bank of Canada be abolished? And I guess this person inferred it as a central bank.
Yeah. So for the Senate, actually, it's very difficult to change the Senate because we need to reopen the Constitution to do that. And we don't want to reopen the Constitution. We want, as a political party, to respect the Constitution. We don't want to have all these constitutional debates. We want to act right now. And if we respect the Constitution, we can be able to have a better and freer country. The Senate, it would be great if they can be elected and they can be accountable. But the way that Harper did it when he was in government, I know that in Alberta they wanted elected senators. So Harper said, have an election at the provincial level, and I will choose the one that will win the election. So like that, you had for the first time a senator at the Senate that was elected, and after that, Harper put him at the Senate. But actually, that Senate was more efficient when we created that country more than 100 years ago. Now, we want them to do the job, to review the legislations coming from the House of Commons. And sometimes, and most of the time, they are not doing that. So it's very difficult to deal with the Senate because we will need to reopen the Constitution. So what we must do each time the federal government and the Prime Minister wants to appoint a new senators, at least that person must be in front of the committee of the House. That person must be there and answering questions from the members of Parliament. At least we must have a kind of an interview for that job by the members of Parliament. So that will try to improve the quality of people that we're putting at the Senate. For the second part of the question was banking, yeah, the Bank of Canada. Actually, I will be short because I can have a long answer to that, but very short. The Bank of Canada is creating inflation by printing money out of thin air. Bernier is speaking about inflation, and he tried to say that I will, control the inflation under my government. You won't have that inflation. But he's not serious about that. To be sure, to fight inflation, you need two things. First one, you need to have a balanced budget, no more deficit. And we can do that in 1 year by cutting CBC, by cutting foreign aid, by cutting, and by cutting also corporate welfare and all these subsidies. The deficit of this year is $40 billion. It's easy, you can have a balanced budget in 1 year. Bernier is not speaking about that. First, he said, fix the budget. It's another empty slogan. How would he do that? We don't know. Fix the budget for him, is it, balancing the budget in only 4 years or 5 years? We don't know. And he doesn't want to be transparent with us. So balance the budget. And the second thing that you must know to control the Bank of Canada and the inflation is to have a 0% inflation target. Do you know that the Bank of Canada wants you to pay inflation, 2% inflation every year? 20% inflation is bad. 2% inflation is bad. 5% inflation is bad, because when you have inflation, our standard of living is going down. Our purchasing power is going down. Inflation is you have $1 in your pocket, and if you have inflation, you won't be able to buy the same amount of goods and services with that $1. So we need to fight inflation. We need to tell the Bank of Canada, 0 inflation target. I don't want you to create any inflation. And if we have that, our spending power will increase, our standard of living will increase. But Bernier is not speaking about that. He's okay with the Bank of Canada to have that 0% inflation target. And now because of that, we know that the real inflation is 6 to 8%. So that's the only way to stop that. And we are ready to speak about that. And I'm ready to debate with Bernier on that. Thank you.
I've got about 5 more questions for you, but they are touching on important technical issues of the economy. So the next question is, any potential for any PPC policies on electoral reform or lack thereof? As it currently stands, both the Liberals and the Conservatives intend on keeping our first past the post system, which, okay.
Yeah, so we need, for us as a populist party, it would be good if our electoral system is a little bit different, with more proportionality. I mean, we had 5% of the vote at the last election, but we don't have 5% of the members of parliament in parliament. There's no proportional representativity in our electoral system. It's first past the post. And that's why it is more difficult for us as a populist party to have a candidate elected. In Europe, they have proportionality in their electoral system, and that's why it's easier for populist party to be elected. So yes, I believe that we must change that. Yes, I agree with that. We must put a kind of proportionality in our electoral system. Yes, it's part of what we believe, but also at the same time, we need to be realist, and the Conservatives and the Liberals don't want that. So to implement that, we need the support of at least one establishment political party. That would be very hard to have that, but I strongly believe in it. That would be easier for have a candidate elected. And look what happened in UK with Nigel and the Reform Party over there. Nigel created that party a couple of months before the election. He had 14% of the vote, but because of the electoral system is the same as us in Canada, he was able only to elect 5 candidates with 14% of the vote. So that would be great if the system in Canada can change, but I don't count on that because these establishment party don't want it. But we will promote it for sure.
Just a little bit of an intro. Income tax was imposed in 1917 by Robert Borden as a temporary measure to finance Canada's World War I effort. Will you abolish income tax? And sales tax was imposed by Conservative Brian Mulroney as a temporary measure. So I'm not sure exactly what this person's referring to. The HST,
Yeah.
the Goods and Services Tax. Thank you.
Yes, if you read our platform, we don't like taxes, we don't like big government, we want you to have more of your own money in your pockets. And actually, I wrote a book on the income tax. Sorry, it was only in French a couple of years ago. But the best tax is the consumption tax, because you can decide if you are paying taxes or not. If you don't spend your money, you don't pay any taxes, you just pay the sales tax. So that's always the best tax system. So for the income tax, it's a tax that is against the creation of wealth. So yes, we must, and I will do my best to abolish that, but if we want to balance the budget at first, we cannot do that in our first year. So in our program, in our platform, we will balance the budget the first year, and the second year with the surplus, we will lower your taxes. So we won't be able to abolish the income tax, but we will lower that. And we won't increase the consumption tax. So with the smaller government in Ottawa, we'll be able to save a lot of money, and all the saving will go to lower your taxes. So you can read our proposal on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. But I agree with that person. That the best tax is a consumption tax, and ideally we must not have an income tax. But we are not able to do that in Canada now.
Okay. Another interesting question is, if we are truly an anti-war federal party, then you, as a leader of the party, will you call out the U.S. government as one of the causes of the conflicts and instability around the world? This supporter thinks the U.S. are warmongers, but they also don't blame American citizens for their policies, but they put the blame on the U.S. government, which has caused chaos, forced mass migration in other countries, which doesn't affect our country and our policies.
That's why I like Robert F. Kennedy and Trump. They're against war, industrial complex. They are always pushing for more wars. It's at their benefit, and that's why we have a war in Ukraine. It's a proxy war between the US and Russia. The only candidates who are against that's Kennedy and Trump. And yes, they're right about it. We need to stop that, and that's why the reputation of the US outside US is not so good, because they interfere everywhere with different wars. And actually, I must admit that a former Liberal Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, did a good thing when he said to Bush at that time that, we won't participate in the Iraq war. That was a great decision. That was not a war, and he did well. He was for peace and prosperity at that time. But under Harper was in line with the war in Afghanistan. We went there. We said we're going to change the society over there. Women will have more rights. We did that. We lost a lot of Canadians, and 15 years later, the same Taliban government is in power, and that's the same thing. So we must not participate in these foreign wars. That's our position of the party, and I'm very pleased that Trump agrees with that.
Okay, the next question is from someone who's obviously very intelligent, but this is going back into your time in office.
Yeah.
What about the bail-in legislation signed by the Harper government? Bail-in legislation.
Okay. So what is a bail-in? Bail-in. When Harper decided to create the biggest deficit in the history of our country to save the big banks and GM, he gave them subsidies. Subsidies to GM and subsidies to the big banks. That was in 2008. So that was a bailout. the federal government used our taxpayers' money and gave that to GM and to big banks. A bail-in, it's the opposite. You know, if a big bank failed, that won't be the federal government and your taxes that will save that bank. That will be your deposit in the bank. So if you have money in the bank, they're going to take, oh, now you're not a depositor, you're not a creditor in that bank, you own a share of a failed bank. So they will transform your deposit in shares of the bank. So you will save, we and you will save the bank. We call that a bail-in instead of a bail-out. I'm against that. Yes, you're right. The upper government do that. I'm against to save any banks or any businesses. If you're not good and you're not able to sell your goods and services in a capitalist system, you go bankrupt. You know, when you save these big corporations, you privatize profit and socialize loss, and we are paying for that. So if you're not competent, you must go bankrupt. No bailout, no bail-in.
Okay, I just have to make an announcement that the auction table bids are going to close in 10 minutes. Please make your way over to have a look again and place your bids. Thank you. Okay, I do have one last question.
Okay, the last one. Usually it's the tougher one.
Oh, it is the tougher one. And it's actually, what is our policy regarding life issues of euthanasia and abortion? Yes, I said it.
Yeah, abortion, it will be a free vote for every member of parliament. And so when I'm saying that, we have pro-life candidates and we have pro-choice candidates. But what we understand is when you have an abortion at the last trimesters, it is a murder. And I'm against that. We need to, Canada need to be, you know, a country like Sweden, like France, like other European countries. We need to be a real country that protects life, and we are not doing that. So my position, my personal position on that is I will vote for a bill that will end the last trimester's abortion that is happening in our country. But also, I will, if we have a pro-life person that is 100% pro-life, I will let that MP to table a bill in the House and everybody will be free to vote in line with their conscience. That's too important. The euthanasia, made like they like to call it, it's crazy. My own province in Quebec, we are the first jurisdictions in the world. We are the first jurisdictions. We are doing more end-of-life made practice than anybody. We must stop that. We are promoting death. We must stop that. We must promote life. That's the cause of death. So that was supposed to be only for the end of life. But now that's not the case. You know, you don't feel good? The government will offer you to kill you. Actually, that's happening with our veterans. Some veterans that are suffering from different PTSD, thank you. They are telling me, oh, if, you know, we can help you also. If you want to die, we'll do that for you. That's crazy. We need to end that. You know, when they started that a couple of years ago, they said it's only for the end of the life. That would be an exception, and that's not the case anymore. So my position and the position of the party of that is to reopen that debate and being sure that it won't be a promotion of death like we are doing right now in this country.